Good morning, grade 5 students. This is Miss Lama talking to you. Today we will be explaining Reading 1, Unit 6, Lindbergh Did It. Lindbergh was an airmail pilot from a small town. An airmail pilot is a pilot who delivers mails. Lindbergh set a record for the longest non-stop flight. He flew solo, alone, from New York to France. He was the first person to fly non-stop from the United States to France. Lindbergh took off from New York on May 20 at 7:52 a.m. On that day, other pilots in the contest waited because the weather was very bad, but he didn't. He was 25 years old when he flew across the Atlantic. He landed in Paris after 33 hours and 30 minutes. People who were waiting were very excited to greet him. The international media and newspaper reporters were there to be the first to tell his story. Lindbergh became famous because of the historic flight. Now, please, I want you to open your North Star books to page 128 and listen to the audio.
Unit 6. What an Adventure! Reading 1. Page 128.
Lindbergh Did It by Jacques Moreau, Paris Express News staff writer. Paris Express News, May 27, 1927. Paris, France. 1 week ago, Charles Lindbergh was just a handsome 25-year-old airmail pilot from a small town in the United States. Today, he is the most famous man in the world and the most important man in the history of flying. Last week, Lindbergh started out on an adventure. He flew solo from New York to France. He was the first person to fly non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean alone. He also set the record for the longest non-stop flight. Lindbergh took off on his historic flight on May 20th at 7:52 a.m. People called him the Flying Fool. On that day, other pilots in the contest waited in New York because the weather was very bad. Lindbergh decided not to wait. He took 5 sandwiches, a bottle of water, a notebook, a pen, and a compass. He didn't even have a radio. All he heard was the sound of the wind and the noise from the plane's engine. He was in the air all alone with his thoughts, his hopes, and his fears. After 3,610 miles, 33 hours and 30 minutes, and no sleep, Lindbergh landed in Paris on May 21st. At that moment, his life changed forever. There were 150,000 excited people waiting to greet him. The international media were also there. Photographers and newspaper reporters wanted to be the first to tell Lindbergh's story. When he got out of his plane and saw all the excitement, he knew that his life would never be the same again. When he began this unforgettable flight, he was a quiet young man from a quiet town. This morning, Lucky Lindy left Paris as an international hero.